The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good evening, listeners. My favorite time of the day and of the week, because I get to spend time with you. So welcome and thank you for joining us. And also, I want to thank each and every one of you who has got a copy of Expert to Influencer. And it is available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and multiple other platforms. Remember, the profits from it are going to entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business. So if you haven't got your copy, get your copy and support entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs is the breed that will change the world. So thank you, folks, for joining us. And without further ado, I'm going to invite our guests in, David and Doug.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello. So, folks, as we were talking earlier, somehow it seemed like we all got the same memo. We're all wearing blue.
Yes, we did.
Just to let you all know, we don't work for the same company.
No.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, anyway. Yeah. There's always a possibility. So, David, I'd love to invite you to share a bit about yourself.
Well, my name's David Dube, and I've been in the entrepreneurial space for 16 plus years now. Started my career teaching courses to companies. The course I started with was how to read anyone and make lifelong clients in just 30 seconds. And fast forward to 2015, I co-authored a book called HD Mindset with a good friend, Anthony Verderami, called HD Mindset. And it's about unlocking the potential within you with clarity. And from there, I've had quite the journey to where I am today. And it's always evolving, especially in relationships and in life, and figuring out who you are and what you want to do. So
Absolutely. That's it. Thank you. Doug.
Hi, Divya. Thanks for having me on. My name is Doug Brown. I am an attorney who has pivoted multiple times into the entrepreneurial space, where I spent a lot of time starting up and turning around 6- and 7-figure businesses. And my work right now is helping lawyers and entrepreneurs get more done in less time so they can actually have a life, the life that they've been working on. So I practice law. I've been in a corporation. I taught innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership for 6 years at the Malcolm Baldrige School of Business before going back in and doing turnarounds at the Connecticut State Bar Association and helping a family jewelry company transition from generation 4 to generation 5. So in my work, it's all about putting all the pieces together and being productive and also taking good care of yourself. And today I get to work with some fantastic people at Summit Success International, where I'm the chief learning officer and I'm an executive coach.
I love that, chief learning officer, because I'm a perpetual student.
Yes, me too.
So, David, I'm going to invite you to share, if you recall, any moment from your childhood that had impacted you in such a way that you remember it even today.
Oh, for sure. I think I was about 8 years old. My parents were in Amway, if you've heard of this company, just a small, tiny company. And so 8 years old, we were at some hotel, and I was with my brother and sister. They're both older than me. I'm the youngest. And I remember being like, I'm getting out of this hotel room. And I went downstairs, and they're having a gala or a ball. They were just having dinner and listening to the heads of the company, which is, I believe it was Betsy and Rick DeVos. And they were speaking, and I was just awestruck, thinking to myself, that is something I could see myself doing. At 8 years old, I was like, I can do that. That's not difficult. That's not hard. And from that moment forward, like in that moment, I didn't really think anything of it after that for many, many years, until I got into high school and I took speech class. And I remember in speech class, I was, all the students are doing their thing. They're fiddling with something, and we're giving our speeches. No one cares what anyone else is speaking about on stage, except the teacher most of the time, because she's the one grading you. No one else cares. And as I'm talking, I'm going through my speech, and I say, so we're supposed to talk about someone who we look up to. And I was writing about my dad, who I looked up to. Mm-hmm. And so I'm describing this person, and the person sounds like me, right? And so I said, if you haven't guessed, I'm talking about myself. And everyone dropped what they're doing and paid attention. I knew I had them right in that moment. I was like, I can do this.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Doug, do you recall a moment?
From my childhood?
Mm-hmm.
I think from the early days, I remember my dad had a big corporate job. Turns out later it was a top secret government job. And I remember at one point he came back and reported that a friend of his who was just kind of let go after 18 years, and he was just shown the door. And my dad was just determined not to let that happen. And so that set him off on an entrepreneurial journey, doing everything from publishing to building houses to running retail businesses. And that's, I guess, for me, a pivotal moment, as I learned early on what it was like to be an entrepreneur and to not want to go through my life wondering, what if I had tried something new? What if I had pivoted and it actually worked? And so I saw my parents do that an awful lot, and work really hard and still provide a wonderful life for us. And that influenced me, I guess, when I went back and I was practicing law as I was, right out of law school. And it wasn't enough for me. There was always more I wanted to do. And so that set me off on this journey of exploring what could I do beyond the traditional lawyer role. And it led me into business, under the business side, and on great adventures that really helped me do what I do now. But it goes back to that time when I saw my parents just take control and seize that entrepreneurial spirit and just watch them work really hard. And I think that's a lot of why I've worked hard to find what I was meant to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how there are some moments that just leave a mark on us for the rest of our lives. Mm. So in our family, we did not have any entrepreneurs, and yet somehow I had that. I didn't recognize it, that it was an entrepreneurial gene. I still remember I used to write short stories, and then a few of my friends, they had liked one of my stories. And to be honest, at that time, they were not anything to talk home about. And I had written on my notebook and just kind of talking to my friends and like, oh, we'd like to read. I'm like, okay, how about if you give me a quarter? And trying to, they're like, no.
You sold your writings.
Nice.
So
there's an entrepreneur right there.
Right? So a couple of people did buy it, and then it's just interesting how we don't realize it. And if you go back to your childhood, you can find the inkling and the beginnings of what is it that you want, because when you're young, there is no fear that, oh gosh, I'm going to fail and there's going to be judgment. Right. So Doug, as you grew and as you moved towards becoming a lawyer, what was it that drew you to that career?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I think, I've since asked rooms full of lawyers kind of the same question. And I think my story is kind of, the same. Is I found an undergraduate that I was really good at it. I really enjoyed the problem solving, the ability to kind of take complicated things and take them apart and figure out solutions for them. And so it just seemed like a natural path. So in many ways, I'd like to say I had this passion for truth, justice, and but I really thought it was fun, and I thought I was good at it. And so that kind of propelled me along. And I've always been one of those people that, if you put a challenge in front of me, I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna take the hill, so to speak. And so that kind of served me well, because I've always have been very curious and had an entrepreneurial mind, and ask good questions that get people to think. So it just seemed like a natural progression to me.
Well, that definitely makes sense. And David,
Yeah.
you talked about, how your parents left a mark on you, working hard and moving towards entrepreneurial journey. So what journey did that take?
Well, my dad was actually a consultant. He worked so he owned his own business. I remember once a year we'd all go out to eat on his company, and it was like tax solutions that he shared with me, that having your own business helped him to do a lot of things that I would never have thought of being able to do. Like every year being able to buy a brand new computer and write it off to your business. The miles on your car, and even how much of your car is a write-off, how much of your home is a write-off, all of those things. And that was just seeing him do what he did, even though, so as a consultant, he went out and worked at the job site, has his client's job site, which is funny because as a speaker, I go out and speak at the clients, right? I show up for them. I'm there in their place live. So it's essentially the same thing. And I obviously do most of my work from home. Like this is my in-house studio that I'm in right here, right? It's a great thing to have, and it enables me to write off a large portion of my house. Right? So why not have it?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people may start thinking, I want to become an entrepreneur because I can write off a lot of things. So David, what would you say to that?
I mean, that's not what it's all about either. To me, business is about impact, right? My dad did what he did because he impacted businesses. He worked on a system. You probably never heard of this unless you're in programming. It's called the AS400 system. Like, it's so old school. And some companies today, they're trying to change over their systems from these old school programs to these new ones that actually end up being convoluted and much more difficult to work with. And my dad, he still gets phone calls at times asking him how to do something in that system. And he was just so good at doing it. Of course, now he's out of that and works in all the new systems, but he still understands it very well. And he knows about its impact was so broad and instantaneous. They would write a program and it instantly worked. The issues with it would be very minimal, the breakdown with it. And so it's about providing solutions. Entrepreneurship is not about how much money you make. It's not about having to write off things. Those are just benefits of it. But the real benefit you get is in impacting other people and seeing the change that happens through working with people. And working as essentially a relationship expert, teaching relationships for 16 plus years, it's all about watching people evolve or change, and not just like that evolution. Like, all of us can have relationships because it's easy to do, but few people understand them. And that's what I teach. That enables them to unlock so many different things within them, so then they can achieve so much more and so much more rapidly in their relationships, and especially in creating new relationships as well.
Absolutely. And the reason I brought that topic up was because a lot of times what happens is that people jump into entrepreneurship for wrong reasons. And one of the key things to know, listeners, is that it's really critical to know your why. And that there will be times when the going goes tough. So for example, last year, when we had pandemic, it was a perfect example. A lot of entrepreneurs could not make it through. A lot of them had to shut down. And yet some of them figured out a way to keep the doors open, so to speak. And if you're working from home, so keeping your lights on. One of the phrase, so it's the why that helps you push through that what. because the what is just logistics, what is day to day, but it's that your passion and purpose to create an impact, that's what helps you unpack your influence and drive impact. So Doug, you mentioned about you love solving problems. So how does you transition out from being a lawyer to an entrepreneur?
Well, I think that it was a natural transition because I've always had the entrepreneurial brain. So I've always been looking for solutions, even when I was lawyering, to what are other ways to solve this problem? How might we have prevented it from happening? What could we do to keep it from happening again? And, even to your point, when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, a big part of finding your why is, what problems are you passionate about solving and what people are you passionate about serving? And when you're focused on those, you can that kind of lines up, with your purpose. So I was always a business builder. So when I, inside the corporation, moved from the legal world onto the business side, it was about building new parts of the organization and fixing things and turning them around. And that's been a big part of who I am, is business building and fixing. And I like to tell the story of, when you were a kid, you might have played with Lego blocks. Well, you take the blocks apart and you see what they are, you play with them and you put them back together in a different way. And you've created something new that might be better than the original. So for me, the purpose behind what I did then and what I do now is it goes back to that thing we talked about, was never wanting, especially in lawyers or people stuck in the corporate world, didn't want them to wake up in their 60 or 70 and get in the watch in retirement and wonder, what if I could have done that? And so I am passionate about helping people figure out what exactly do they want to do? Who do they want to, what problems do they solve? What people they want to serve? And then create a business to go do that.
Absolutely. So both of you have mentioned few reasons. If I were to ask you, narrow it down to one reason, not only why you became an entrepreneur, but you'll stick through it. Doug.
Why do I stick to it?
And what will make you stick through tough times and adversities and continue being an entrepreneur?
Through my career, whether before I was a coach, back when I was a colleague and a peer, and I get so much juice out of seeing people unlock their own potential and knowing that I had a little piece of that is part of my story, is a little bit of their story, and they're able to do better than they might have done if we hadn't met. So that keeps me going, because I know that I'm making a difference one person at a time, so that they can achieve kind of what I've found doing exactly the work that I was meant to do and actually having a life. I had in my family a variety of relatives died at a very young age. And
sorry to hear that.
Well, me too. And it was a real motivating factor to not be complacent, because I wanted to make the biggest impact I could. So the ability to help people unlock whatever their potential is and then see that grow, that keeps me going. That's why I do the work.
That's great. And how about you, David?
It's very similar, except no lawyer experience here. The only lawyer experience I have is one of my best friends. His name is also David, and he and I started a company. So my mom, in 2014, got diagnosed with cancer the second time. I met up with him and we started cutmedicalbills.com to help people negotiate their own medical bills, because we saw a need, right? My mom had cancer, and hers was, it took the life out of her. In fact, she died because of it.
Oh,
right?
so sorry to hear that.
She passed away in early 2017. And then to fast forward 2018, I lost 5 people in 1 year. So tragedy, right, befalls all of us. And the thing is how do you deal with those things that happen to you in life? And when you have a passion, when you have the fire that burns inside of you and you know what that why is, the benefit is no matter what obstacle happens to befall you, there's always a way around it, because your passion will burn so strongly. It doesn't matter what that thing is. I've So 6 people, 2 years passed away in my life, not including the animals that were a part of that, right? My mom had 2 cats, both of them went. And here I am. I'm still showing up. I'm still doing what I do. And the reason is because the passion is so great. Nothing's going to stop it. So, but yet, what do most of us do? We let life get in the way. And I'm not saying I'm not beyond that. I've let life get in my way. Right now, I'm also dealing with something I wasn't foreseeing happening. And here I am, once again, driving through it because I have passion enough to do it.
So sorry for your loss, David.
Appreciate that. Divya.
So David, there are a lot of people who have gone through COVID-19 and pandemic and social issues and a lot of things going on, and people are feeling conflicted. And being a mental health coach, I've seen so many people go through that burnout. So now let's say if somebody's thinking of changing their career, moving into entrepreneurship. From your perspective, what 4 to 5 key relationships they need to build as they start growing their business?
Well, the first relationship is the one you have with yourself. So mindset, I mean, there's a whole reason I co-authored a book on mindset is because mindset's everything. To the extent that it keeps you focused and enables you to know what to focus on and what not to focus on, or when, because that's important. Now, around that, then, the next important relationship is your support. So if you have a significant other and they don't support your passion, that's going to be a problem. If you've got a parent who's not going to support your passion, that's going to be a problem. What you end up doing then is you find support first for the thing that's going to drive you forward.
Exactly.
So whatever that support looks like, go online, find groups, communities that are doing or in the same sphere as you or who are an entrepreneur community. So it doesn't matter what your stake is, theirs might be different, but yet they'll still support you. And bond relationships, make relationships with these individuals. Because when your family's telling you can't make it, when your significant other's telling you can't make it, you have a place to go to that will tell you will make it. And that's the important part. So when you're with the people who are going to tell you be negative, just don't talk about your business. Don't talk about that with them. Talk about every life thing or what's going on for them, not your business. Okay? That's going to help you keep your mindset straight. If you don't do that, then guess what? Next day, you might kick the can to a new job because your entrepreneur career just took a turd on you, right? And what that was your parents or whoever telling you all the bad things. Like, you're not going to make it. Why are you deciding to do that? Right? So to me, those are the 2 most important things. Everything else after that's an ancillary, right? So it's how to shield yourself from the naysayers and what to do to build a community that's going to tell you can make it.
Absolutely. Know thyself.
Completely.
Absolutely. No, good. Definitely good points. And relationships are so important, especially knowing yourself. Because what happens is one of the things that entrepreneurs face is that, I am good at this. I'm not good at this. Experiencing those doubts and let me go after the next shiny thing. That next shiny thing syndrome, folks, can not only empty your pockets, but it will help you take detours several times. And you don't want to take so many detours. A couple of detours are good. You will be ending up taking because you're chartering an uncharted territory. So
For
Doug,
sure.
We have talked about relationship now. Now, what happens is so many times entrepreneurs are wearing multiple hats. They gotta be bookkeeper, they gotta do social media, they gotta do content writing, copywriting, building their brand, generating leads. And folks, you may be saying, oh my goodness, it sounded really good that we could become an entrepreneur. And now what's all this? And that's where your why does come into play. And not only why, productivity comes into play because you can be very, very efficient. So Doug, I know you have some tips and tricks under your hat. So share with us.
Oh, in terms of being
Productivity.
productivity. Yeah.
Mhm.
Boy, Divya, a lot of this stuff I learned by doing it wrong. Like I guess the first thing that comes to mind is this mistaking activity for productivity. Like, I'm really, really busy. I'm doing lots of things. I must be productive. But if you're not focused in a particular area on a particular goal, thinking about what's your outcome, then you can do what, back before COVID, it was random acts of lunch. I spent years going to various, meeting with people and having lunch with people. And I wasn't exactly clear on what I wanted, the problems I solved, the people I solved them for. I was trying to be everything to everyone. And as a result, it wasn't very effective. I knew a lot of people, but they didn't, and I think they liked me, but they didn't know really what I was doing. So the number one thing for productivity is really to be clear. And when we talk about it, it's your purpose, why you're an entrepreneur, but more importantly, exactly what problem do you solve and exactly who do you solve it for? And when you figure that out, you can figure out the how, and you can start to get your work into your swim lanes, because we have this badge that busyness is a good thing. How you doing? I'm really busy. Oh, I'm even busier. I'm busier than you. It's not productive. So in terms of productivity, it's being very clear on what your priorities are, having a really good awareness of where your attention is going. When I'm doing coaching, David, you probably see this with your clients too. It starts with, are you really aware of what's going on and what's pulling your attention? Because when you're aware of it, now you're in control. If you're in denial of it, you can't do anything. So you have to be aware of where you're paying attention and how you're putting your action together. And really, that focus, that priority is probably the most important thing, so that you're focusing your efforts on your high value tasks, and you're not letting the distraction, the drinking from a fire hose that it is to be an entrepreneur, even the fire hose of your own mind, staying focused on, keep your eye on the prize, and then having a community and support around you to help you stay on that track when you start to question yourself. I see so many entrepreneurs who will get, they're one exit away from success and they'll hop into the rest area or turn around. And so that's where community is really important to help you. And I just wanted to pop in this idea of protecting your energy, because it's so easy as an entrepreneur for you to fall into the, I'm not good enough. I made a mistake. My mom's right. I should have stayed in a law firm. And not that would happen. So protecting your energy and making sure you're going for feedback from people who were kind of qualified to give it to you, and not just anybody who thinks they have a tip on what you ought to do in your life. So there's a lot of different things, but it really does come down to how you're prioritizing and managing your energy and being aware and mindfully aware of what's going on in your business and in your head.
Well, some great points there. So I want to touch upon a couple of things. So one thing that you shared is that knowing who you're solving the problem for. So for example, folks, if you have a book that's designed to help a single mom find financial freedom, and now if you are speaking to a gentleman who has enough money, it's not going to resonate. So whatever message you're trying to share will not resonate with that person. So it's so critical to know your audience and speak to them, and knowing exactly what the problem you're solving for. Now, that said, you talked about productivity and staying focused. It's about who do you associate with. And we talk about ROI, which is return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up some really good points around energy. It's very critical. Who are you associating with? If somebody's pulling your energy down, review that relationship. Is that person, like, are you getting that return on energy? I'm not saying that it should be transactional. It's still about that relationship, which if it's going to pull you underground and then you're digging your way out of a hole, that's not the relationship for you. So Doug, you often mention you've shared a lot of good strategies. Do you have any tactics that can help people recover approximately 8 to 10 hours from the week?
Yes. And when I first did the math on that, I thought, wow, I'm going to have to work hard to find 10 hours a week to, and then you start looking at the average person gets about 200 emails a day, takes a hour or two to process those. That's before you do Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and all the other things that are bouncing in your face. And so you are constantly distracted, like every 3 minutes, sometimes just yourself. And every time you get distracted, it takes you 25 minutes to get back on track, even the self-inflicted ones. So the key to saving that 10 hours a week, and it's just 2 hours a day, and it's an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. The key is to having a plan of exactly how you're going to spend your day. And we talk about white space in the plans because you got to have a shock absorber, working in constrained time so things don't take a lot more time than they need to. And then capturing some of those in-between times. Like, I only have 15 minutes. I can't start this project. So I may as well go and grab a cup of coffee or surf on the internet. But that's 15 minutes you could use if you have come up with your priorities for the week and say, well, I can make this one phone call. I can reach out to that one person. I can move this project one step forward. So instead of saying I only have 15 minutes, I've got 15 minutes. What am I going to do with that? And then taking breaks, because you have to pace yourself during the day. We psychologists say, I'm not a psychologist, but they tell me that you have 4 to 5 hours of really heavy cognitive load work available in any given day. So it's important to be conscious of how you're scheduling that, and you're matching your high energy tasks to your high energy times, which is, for many people, you're wasting that on email and wandering around when you were at office, around the office for the first 2 hours of your day, when you could just get down to getting the work done. And there's a lot of things in there, but when you're aware of how you're being distracted and working in block time and sprints, so you can get into flow, and you're eliminating distractions using the people around you, you can easily recover 10 hours a week. And so that's the start. We could probably do 2 hours on that, but that's not the show.
Absolutely. And that's definitely some great pointers there, that chunking it, because brain, coming from a neuroscience background, brain does like chunking and associating high energy tasks with your high energy time when you're most optimal. Now, one of the things that what happens is that a lot of people get distracted, emails and social media and all that. So one of the things that I have found, folks, that really works well is that plan your email times. And also what you can do is with your clients, let's say if they're a high impact client for you or high value client, you can tell them that if it's that urgent, text me. So this way, you know that allowing that time for yourself to respond and letting your clients know that I will get back to you within 12 hours or 24 hours. And that allows you to chunk your time.
And having boundaries is essential.
It's saying no is a big part to being productive. So David, how do you stay productive, and how do you bring that productivity in relationships?
That's an excellent question. Productivity in relationships. Well, if going back to what Doug was talking about, one of the things I do is I use a timer. I usually have a time. I mean, it's over here. It's a kitchen timer that I have. And I just set this to 90 minutes. And then what you do is you take your cell phone and you put it in a different room, put 90 minutes on your clock, and then you create the optimal space and time to A, not get distracted, and B, to focus dedicated time on something. And after 90 minutes, you take a 10, 15-minute break, or you go on to something that, like Doug said, I can make that phone call now, or I can make a couple phone calls now, right? So then you're actually chunking those experiences down into time frames. And if 15 minutes isn't long enough to get into sync or into flow, right? And an hour, oftentimes, once you get into flow, an hour is 10 minutes, right? So 90 minutes is kind of the optimal time frame that I use for that. Now, relationships, how many of you, when you're out and about, how many of you people see someone, they're with their partner and this is what they're doing? Then they just look at them doing the same thing and they're just scrolling their phone, right? See it all the time, right? And put your phone away. the phone's not important. Like if your partner, the relationship that you're in, if it's important to you, put all the things around, all the distractions you have away and focus on the relationship. Ask questions like, how was your day? When they tell you a story about something, say, how did that make you feel? I think that's like the most important question that is rarely asked enough. And so when you ask those questions, you literally deepen relationships rapidly, just like that. Like they know you care enough to ask how they feel about something. So many people don't care how you feel. Oh, that's a great story. And then they want to talk about them. That's neat. You'll get your turn, but after you ask them questions, right? And if you don't get to your turn, don't cry about it. Don't be a baby. It's okay.
Don't be a baby.
Right? I mean, how many people do you know who are just about them so often that they are those ones who are taking that energy? They're the energy suck, right? Because it's about them, and not about anyone else. Right. So when it comes to relationships too, the other thing I do, and I tell my clients to do, is you take a number system, a 1, a 2, and a 3. So on a piece of paper, what you want to do is you want to hang out with people who you look up to. Anyone you look up to, you write their name down, put a 1 by their name. Now, they don't have to be people you personally know, but they could be people just outside of the sphere of people you know. So if that's the case, right? So these are people outside your sphere. So you watch someone like Tony Robbins or Dean Graziosi or Brendan Bouchard or, right? Any of these high, these people that it's going to cost you a lot of money either to get in their presence. Put them, that's fine if you put them as a 1. Then how do you hang out with them? You go watch their YouTube videos. You go interact with people who interact with them. Find people that they know that you could hang out with, or other people who follow them. Be a part of their communities. Why? Because if they're following them, what do you think they're thinking? Similar thoughts to what that person is thinking, right? Why would we follow those people? So those are what you would call 1s, and you would put 1 next to all those names. If your list of people are 2s, what are 2s? 2s are people who you would consider your best friends, right? These are people you went to school with, high school with, college with, right? These are the people who you work with. So if you're an attorney, right, they're all your attorney buddies, right? They might be your frat
Sometimes
pals.
those are 3s.
Right? Yeah. And
They might
so
be listening to you, Doug.
right. And 3s are people who look up to you. Right. So those end up being the time suck, the energy sucks. Not to say they're bad people, not to say anything like that, but they look up to you. So when they're around you, they want to do what you are doing, what you want to do. And that's great. But if you are the number 1 in the room, you're hanging around the wrong crowd. You want to be a number 2 in a number 1's room. If you're the smartest person, you're actually not that smart because you're not learning anything. You're not gaining any knowledge. Like in this collective here, Divya, Doug, I'm learning from them just as much as I'm able to hopefully add value to them. Right? Mm-hmm. That's a pretty awesome thing. Those are types of people that I know I would like to hang out with more. So 3s, try to limit your hangout time with them, right? A lot of them are family. That's fine. You hang out with them at birthdays, bar mitzvahs, right? Yearly celebrations, and that's kind of it. 2s, cool. You hang out with 2s on the weekend. 1s, you hang out with all the other times of the day.
Yeah. No, it's a good system. So, David, you said something beautiful. I just would like to add something to that, is that one of the key distinctions is when you were talking about 3s is that there's possible that you may have mentees, and I would put them in number 1, and you can tell me whether that works or not, because these are people who are not only looking up to you, they want to achieve things in their lives. And when you're in their presence and when you're mentoring somebody and when you see them grow, there's just a whole area of joy and fulfillment that you can get with it. Any thoughts on that?
I wouldn't put a number to them. I'm only assigning numbers to people I already know.
Okay.
Not to people who are paying to be a part of me or who are even just a part of a community that I put together. Mm-hmm. I don't consider them one of those because in most cases, what happens is they're a part of that because yes, they want to know what I know, but sometimes when they're done, right, I would say, they're done using you, right? And it's not because I need to be used or that's right. They've graduated the scenario where they need me in their life, which is awesome. That's what I want for people. I want people to graduate from having I want to be their college degree, but they can go on to greater things. They can be a shinier star than I could ever be. And that's awesome. I want those people, right? So those are the people I put a number to. I'm talking about all the people in your life that you currently know and hang around, and your clients, they either pay you or you've created a community where you want these people to be around you because they want the knowledge that you have. And that's awesome.
Well, thank you for clarifying.
Yes. Thanks for asking.
Oh, absolutely. So, Doug, why don't you share with our listeners? I know you have got hacks. Where can people reach you? And what would be your one number tip that they could take away and implement it starting from today?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Well, I put, one of the things that I have is my 5 favorite productivity hacks. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just what they are, but actually how to use it and the words to use. So I've created a page for your listeners. It's at summit-success.com/Divya. And they'll be able to get the productivity hacks. And I've also will send them something we didn't talk about, but my tips on how to say no without being a negative person, because we have to learn how to say no. I think the biggest tip I can offer is something I think your listeners can relate to, and something I see all the time. It's these principles that we're talking about for productivity require practice. It's you don't watch a video and know how to hit a golf ball. You would never have your kid watch a YouTube video and put it behind the wheel of a car. But we work with people who have smart person syndrome. So we believe that if we know in our heads what to do, we automatically will do it. And if it doesn't work, it obviously was a bad strategy. But that's not the case. The things that we're talking about require practice and support and trial and error. You'll flop on your face, you pick yourself up, and you keep going. It's like being an entrepreneur. So you never can give up on being productive. You always have to keep practicing it and be patient with yourself.
Absolutely. Mastery comes in the doing and being, which we have talked about, having that mindset. And you hinted upon that continue doing it. So that's the mindset. That's the being part. Mm-hmm. And then continuing practicing it, which is
if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be resilient in everything you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your gift, Doug. How about you, David? How can people reach out to you, or if you have something to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to what actually Doug just said, one of the things that I say when I'm speaking in front of any audience is that people get things, but they seldom understand them, right? One of the biggest things, like you have a cell phone, we know how to use the power of God in our hands right here. But if your phone didn't have a broken screen, a dead battery, or was liquid damage, and you had to open your phone up to fix it, how many of you could do that? Right? It's probably less than 1% of the population. Yes, sure, you could watch a YouTube video, but once again, you'd be only getting it, half the story at that. You wouldn't understand it. So fundamentally, we all have lives, we all have relationships, but fundamentally, we rarely understand them. When you have this understanding, not only does life transform, but you transform and your relationships transform. And that's what this is all about. To me, that's what life is all about. It's all about relationships, literally. Yours with yourself and then with everyone else. But when you change your relationship with everything changes. So, absolutely. I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing. And if you want to connect with me, I would say find me on Facebook or find me on Instagram. And I am working on a brand new project. It's actually not brand new, but it's brand new to everyone else who's hearing it for the first time. It's called Project Breakthroughs. The idea is really just starting a community of people who want not only better for themselves, better life for their families, better life for their communities, right? Better communities, and then better humanity as a whole. So let's not just start with us. Let's not just end there. Let's work to make humanity the best it can possibly be. Because when you do better, don't you want other people to do better too? When you're happy, don't you want your friends and your family to be happy? It's selfish happiness. That's what I want. That selfishness of you being happy, well, it's contagious. You really want other people to be happy, don't you? When you're really, really happy. So if we can do this, why not do it as a community? So Project Breakthroughs, there's a Facebook community. I started a while ago, but I haven't invited anyone to it. Find it, join it. There's going to be a whole lot going on there, and I'm really excited about that.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And folks, so based on what David mentioned, remember what we have talked about. Contributing your 1 hour of time with no expectations, no strings attached for somebody else. Think about it. If every person, or even let's say 60-70% of US population did that, we're talking about 150 or even more, like 200 million hours every month. And think about what could we do. So yes, David and Doug, it's all about humanity, bringing us together and doing something more than just for yourself. So thank you for being here, and thank you, listeners, for joining us. And thank you, Rebel, for making the show possible. Be well until next time. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.